Guys, I cannot believe this. We have just kept going and going and going, and this is the first time I've been wide open throttle and we've barely gained speed. So if you ever plug in dead and it does this, don't worry, that is normal. This is a brand new Tesla Model X called the P3 generation, so Palladium third refresh, I'm guessing, and we are going to run it all the way to dead. You know, we've run a bunch of electric cars in our run to zero test, but I've never run a Palladium Model X all the way out to zero. This uses the roughly 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, same battery that's in my Model S actually, and this is a fresh, brand new car from Tesla. They sent it to us to make some videos with it, which is so cool. Now we're going to find out what happens when you drive it until it completely dies. We've tested so many cars and seen such wild behavior at the very low end of the battery pack. So let's go run our first Tesla in the run to zero. This is a new Tesla Model X long-range all-wheel drive. They're about $100,000. It is not the plaid version, and it is on the Aero wheels. Now, this particular test does not factor in anything to do with range or charging, and there's no winner or loser in the run to zero. I guess the only failure would be if it dies before it hits zero. Shout out Cadillac Escalade IQ. We could not get it to go below 1%. Something weird going on there. Teslas, we've run to zero many times in our range tests. You guys know our 70 mile per hour tests. We always go until the car stops, but I don't think in recent memory we've run one of these cars out completely dead. So what we're gonna do now is we've got it down to 5% state of charge with a warm battery. We just drained it and we had it, preconditioning, ready to go. I'm gonna run it all the way till it hits zero. Once we hit 0%, I'm going to reset the trip computer and see what happens below zero. Everyone and every automaker seems to have a different opinion on what electric cars should do before they run out. For example, Volkswagens will give you everything they can get almost shut off, and then they allow some restarts to maneuver out of a traffic light situation or something like that. Other vehicles like Lucids will go 15 or 20 plus miles below 0% for some reason. I'm really curious to see what Tesla does, as this is the first time, if I remember correctly, we're running a Tesla in the actual run to zero test. And let me walk you through the testing procedures. So we're going to have a warm battery in the brand new Tesla Model X long range all-wheel drive. I'm going to drive it at normal speed until we hit zero, reset the trip computer, and then drive between 35 and 55 miles an hour here around the out-of-spec track until it dies and won't move anymore. Once it has a hard time maintaining around 35 miles an hour, I'll just keep the accelerator pressed all the way to the floor until it literally stops moving. I'll then take my mobile DC fast charger, run over here, that charge rig sent to us, and we'll roll it up alongside the Model X and charge it up after it dies. That way we do no battery damage, because you don't want to let a battery sit dead for very long. And that's basically it. So let's jump in the brand new Model X. I really like this frost blue color. I think it's a good spec. And yeah, just drive it till it dies. So here we are in the Model X. We are at 5% state of charge. Again, we've actually already DC charged and drove this car down today, so the battery's nice and toasty. And we're just gonna cruise. I'll reset the trip computer, which is down here in trips. I'll reset trip I guess onto Myrtle. We'll rename it Run to Zero, and we'll see how many kilowatt hours Tesla has put below zero in this thing. I love these crappy weather days because they're perfect for run to zeros when we can't do range tests or any track tests. It's just cold and wet and slippery, and these run to zeros don't really matter so much in terms of comparison. It's just to see what warnings pop up and what happens to these cars at low state of charge. So someone's got the buzz over there. I think Scott's filming a software update with it. I'm just going to cruise around on the back roads around the track, because there's actually some folks out on track today testing, and yeah, just run this thing all the way out. So Tesla sent us this 6-seat Model X long range, and man, it's cool to be in one of these cars. I have to say, this car has had some issues. I'll do a whole video on it. I don't know when this will go up, We had some suspension fault issues, some HVAC issues, and driver assistance issues. It went into Tesla's service, and we just picked it up last night, and everything feels perfect now. Feels like they got it dialed in, but that's a bit unfortunate that this one had so many problems, but such is life. We all know that sometimes you get some bad ones, and man, this one, 3 major issues on a brand new Model X. So just keep that in mind. I've also had a ton of issues on my Model S. So maybe these Palladium cars are not as reliable as the earlier versions of these vehicles. I haven't really driven this car much at all, so I'm really looking forward to driving it here in the run to zero. But let's talk like setup and procedures. Obviously, before we hit 0%, I'm going to be keeping an eye on if there's any warnings or pop-ups that happen. And I know Tesla's pretty well, and the only thing that happens is the battery goes red. No major pop-ups, no warnings, no beeps, no bongs. It just lets you use the range. I mean, it's thinking probably you're a smart human. You can tell when your battery gauge or your gas gauge or, your range is low, and you will plug it in. Now we'll see what happens when we hit 0%, if any more warnings pop up, if there's a turtle mode or things like that. But that'll be curious to see for sure. All I'm going to do is keep the climate control on at a normal rate. We'll keep the Model X in the most efficient drive settings, and then I'll just drive again once we hit 0% when we reset the trip computer, anywhere between 35 and 55 miles an hour until it dies completely. So let's go drain it all the way out to until we hit 0, hit reset on the trip computer, and run it until it dies. One thing Tesla does do a great job of, though, is if you're navigating, it says plan your next charge. Actually, this will pop up no matter what. This message right here will be no supercharging near your destination. Plan alternative charging. So that's if you're arriving to a destination with low state of charge. So they really do try to help you there. This message does pop up when you are at low SOC, though. It says you're almost too far from known charging locations. And so that's really awesome. Hello, do we know how to use roundabouts around here? You're in the middle of 2 lanes, brother. This is a real funny situation. They've installed these double roundabouts here right by the out-of-spec track, and let me tell you, the people of northeast rural North Carolina do not understand roundabouts, and I certainly am I come off the highway full send right through here. You can see it doesn't ever cross over into this lane, and people are always just crossing over, and I've got to like go on the shoulder and go around them. I'm certainly not letting off. This is race mode heading to the office. So with all that said, let's go cruise around and drain this battery. And nice that this is a warning that pops up as you get to low state of charge. We are pulling in right now, and we are at 1% state of charge, which is pretty perfect. So as soon as we hit 0, I'm going to reset the trip computer, set the climate control to something reasonable. I'm just warming up the cabin because it's quite chilly outside, 37 degrees right now. There's timing with the charge rigs and the R1S. Things are going well here. We're just doing, when we have bad weather days, we're doing like software reviews and run to zeros. It's just, brutal day weather-wise. But what can you do except make the best of it and run some electric cars out of charge? So even down here at 1%, there's a pretty big power limit in the Model X, and it's hard to quite see it on this screen. Let me see if I can slow down. You can kind of see the dots on the right side of the power bar. So if I just juice it real quick, that's as far as it'll go. And there's a few more dots over there on the right that are hard to see. And I have this same power meter on my Model S, and it's just hard to actually see the power limit come in. So I hope Tesla can make the contrast a little bit better on the power meter bar, because that's something I would really like to see in my car, which is the same display as this. So as soon as it hits 0, we'll reset everything and actually start the run to 0. But I'd say somewhere around, certainly this car will lose power off of 100%, maybe around 70%. Your 0 to 60 times will get a little bit longer. I'm just spitballing. But certainly around 10%, you'll start to feel a big power limit on hard acceleration. But this car can easily maintain highway speed, even down here at 1% with no issue. If you're cruising 70, 80 miles an hour down the highway, you're not going to be using all of the available power at all, even down here at 1%. So our major warning just popped up. It said all known charging locations will be out of range soon. Oh, and we just hit 0%. So let me reset. So we'll go down here to like 72 degrees. We'll go to trips, and we're going to reset this one. And boom, great. So we actually got up to 1% with that regen right there, but we'll count it. It should go back to 0 any second now. It said windshield washer fluid low. What the heck? hold on. Maybe we'll reset there's 0%, 0.1 kilowatt hours difference. No big deal. Let's go see how far we go below zero. I've got 72 degrees on. I'm actually going to shut the heated steering wheel and seat off. All parameters are set. And my guess is there's going to be, I think there's going to be 4 kilowatt hours before it shuts off. That's my guess, but time will tell. I'm feeling so ballsy, I'm going out on public streets at 0% because there's still plenty of power in my power limit available. Let's go see what happens as we cruise down. Climate control's working great. No major warnings. The only thing really is just 0% on the screen. So in terms of speed ranges, I'm running about 55 miles an hour out here on the main road on the way into the track, and then I'll run about 35 miles an hour inside the track. And that simulates pretty much the exact speeds we typically run when we do our run to zeros around the track. Again, there's some folks out on track right now, so we weren't able to use that, but we can use the rest of the property. And I'll make sure when we get really low on power that I just stay on track property so I don't run out on public roads. But for now, I'm feeling pretty good. And we'll just scooch right in through here, buddy. Sorry about that, but I don't want to come to a stop. And then, yeah, we'll do like 40 miles an hour on this road and then like 35 in the track. And that pretty much is what we do in all of these. Again, no competition, no winner, no loser, just seeing what automakers do when their cars run out. I think it's an interesting test, so let's let it continue. I'll update you guys if anything cool happens, but for now, we're just cruising. Wow, I just got this pop-up right here. It says high energy consumption, use navigation to see estimated battery level and ensure arrival. Interesting. I've never seen this from a Tesla, I don't think, but I would disagree. That's not high energy consumption. 282 watt hour per mile is very efficient. And that's with climate control on. So I'm sure it's just saying, hey, make sure you can make it there. And it's using the wrong wording. That's like if you're really ripping on it. But I'm just driving gently and slowly. And yeah, that's an interesting message to pop up there. We are cruising along at 55 miles an hour, but I feel like we're getting to the bottom of the pack here. If I floor it, it goes. It's fine. I don't want to do that too long. But it's not much. We're about 9 miles past zero. We've used 2.8 kilowatt hours. I think I'm going to keep it off the main roads now and just run it around the track, which is probably about the right thing to do because it feels pretty low, but you just never know. Sometimes these things keep going and going. The power meter's still looking pretty good. You can see we have a little sliver of gray there. That's seemingly plenty to use. So let's just keep it. Looks like they're doing a shift change over here at Lowe's. Let's just keep it out on this road and to the track. That way we don't have to worry about other traffic or anything like that when it decides to run out. We're 10 miles past zero though, so that is, yeah, that's about as expected so far for Teslas. There is quite a bit of buffer down there, and honestly, I'm not sure why they do it, but I would think, you know, some people feel like zero should mean zero. There should be a 5 mile buffer or a 5 kilowatt hour buffer. Everyone has their own opinions, and we're just here to show what it does. But yeah, we're now officially past 10 miles below zero and 2.9 kilowatt hours used. So let's keep seeing what happens. I'm down here trackside making a quick loop around the skid pad. Looks like the folks are off the track for now, which is good. Man, what a rough day for a track test day. Anyway, acceleration is okay. That's hard throttle. It's fine, but it's, man, can't believe it. Over 4 kilowatt hours past zero now, and it's still giving pretty sizable power. I mean, look at that. That's not wide open, but pretty close, and it's moving along. Actually, I think that was everything the car could give it because I felt as I was coming off the accelerator pedal, it wasn't totally decelerating, which means I was past the power limit. But that's okay. Yeah, so we're definitely towards the bottom, no question. But again, no extra warnings, nothing's crazy. It's just power meter staying kind of the same, and we're able to cruise along at good speeds. So I'm thinking, man, I guessed 4 kilowatt hours, but there could be 5 or more below zero. I guess we'll find out here in a couple minutes as I go screaming around the property. I just got an unable to drive warning, battery charge level too low. Well, that's funny because look at this. That's how much power there still is in this thing. Moving along just fine. Let me hit it with a little bit of regen since I just squeezed on the accelerator pedal. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely able to drive. We're 4.5 kilowatt hours below zero and 16 miles almost. It says unable to drive, but it's still driving just fine. Again, still maintaining 40 miles an hour. I mean, that's not no problem to maintain speed, even 4.9 kilowatt hours past zero. This Model X is giving us a really strong performance here in terms of just a ton of range below zero. So I'm going to hold it here around 45 miles an hour and just keep it rolling until it completely dies. But for now, it's going. I can't believe it, but it's still going. 5.1 kilowatt hours now past zero, over 17 miles. That's a huge buffer down here. Guys, I cannot believe this. We have just kept going and going and going, and this is the first time I've been wide open throttle and we've barely gained speed. So, I mean, it still is gaining speed. That's crazy. We are 6.4 kilowatt hours past zero. That's like an unacceptable level of buffer, I think, because you're just depriving people of their daily, usable range by putting over 22 miles past zero. We've got to flip around here and head back, and I keep thinking every time I pull into this intersection the car's just gonna die, and I don't want it to, and it just keeps going and going. But it does really feel like we're at the bottom now, because if I go full power, I mean, it still has enough to accelerate, but it seems like 45 miles an hour or so is the equilibrium. So I am now to the floor. I can't believe it. 6.5 kilowatt hours past 0%. That is just way more than I thought Tesla's had down here at the bottom, and that's why we do this test. And here's roughly our equilibrium speed. I'm wide open, and this is about all I can do. My guess is it's going to shut off here pretty soon, but that's been my guess for the last 10 minutes of driving. It's gotten so dark, we're in dark mode. And, I thought that was it there. That was just lane departure hitting. But I cannot believe it. We're still maintaining 45 miles an hour after driving at 0% for 23.5 miles. I cannot believe this. It's got to be close to the end now, don't you think? I mean, it will not go faster. We're actually losing speed for the first time. 6.7 kilowatt hours burned. We just lost 1 mile an hour, 23.7 miles in. And our efficiency is great, 283 watt hour per mile. That's with climate control on the whole time at 72 degrees. And it's a cold 37 outside as well. So, man, we've got to keep doing loops, but I'll let you know when it dies. It can barely accelerate in this direction now as we're trying to head back the other way. 35 miles an hour. I am foot to the floor. But hey, it's still moving. That is crazy. This is getting pretty frustrating at this point. It just won't die. We don't have all day, Tesla. 30 miles an hour now is the fastest we can go. We've gone over 7 kilowatt hours below zero. 7.1 kilowatt hours. That's like, when it says zero, that means you still got like over 7% state of charge. Holy moly, 25.6 miles below zero. I mean, it really feels like it's giving almost nothing. You can see we're just losing speed. But one thing is for sure, the behavior of this Model X below zero is totally different than Model 3, Model Y. There we go. Pull over safely. Vehicle is shutting down. Okay, that is interesting. I'm going to keep it floored to see what happens. We do have to turn around on the skid pad here. I guess they're off the track, but Timon, I think I'm dying. Just radioed out to Timon to let him know what was going on. You can see they're down here. I don't know what he said, but we're just flipping around. It's still giving power, believe it or not. It is still giving a tiny bit of power. Oh, hazards are on. Charge level low. We're dying on the uphill here, turning around. Climate control still running. I'm full throttle still. I mean, we're kind of mostly using inertia. I'm going to keep it floored just to see what happens. Vehicle shutting down. Pull over safely. Just to be nice to the 12 volt, I'm going to shut climate off. Those are the stats right now. 26 miles, 7.2 kilowatt hours past zero. And here comes Timon to rescue us after we have died. Adaptive ride control unavailable. Vehicle speed limited. So there's a little bit of sensors that are mad at us about this. I'm still full throttle. I'm curious to see what happens when we get to zero. Will it put itself in park? Battery charge level low. Charge now. Unable to drive. Pull over safely. It's still moving. Electrical system is unable to support all features. Switching off features to conserve energy. I wonder if that includes climate control. Well, actually, climate control says it's on, but it's definitely off. Huh. So it auto shut off climate control. I thought I did that, but nope, it shut off climate control. But we're still moving. Believe it or not. We go till the cars stop, or at least the contactors blow open. Oh, and the contactors are open. There's no regen. We were just coasting. We can double confirm that here on this little uphill. If I just bring it to a stop. Yeah, the accelerator pedal is doing nothing. Vehicle shutting down. If I bring us to a stop like that, it stays in drive, but the pedal does nothing. So that's it right then. It's dead. If I come here to trips, you can see 7.2 kilowatt hours used after we hit 0%, 26 miles. That's a huge buffer. We got to talk about that. But let's pop open the charge port and get it charging off the Charge Rig's mobile charger. It says charge immediately to ensure vehicle will start, remain responsive, and to avoid potential battery repair. No problem. We will get it done, and it says vehicle is shutting down. It says turning off electrical systems, right? But the auto power door just went. All right, it's out of charge. Let's plug it in right where it died and get it juicing. Timing 7.2 or 7.1 kilowatt hours past zero.
Holy cow.
That's unacceptable.
That's way too much.
Way too much. Holy moly. Over, like, it was like 25 miles or something like that.
It should be at maximum like 15 miles.
I'm really curious to see how many kilowatt hours it takes to get to 1%. We should have checked that on the gravity. So here's the thing. We were upset about the gravity going so far below zero, and then this thing just went farther. What is going on with these cars? Zero should...
Kind of mean.
Yeah, maybe like 5 miles.
Yeah.
But not like, don't like leave a significant chunk of the battery down there. Holy smokes, it just rocketed. And yeah, some Teslas charge real slow off the bottom voltage. This is one of them, apparently. You know how sometimes Model 3s take like 30 minutes
to
come off like 1 kilowatt? This is at least doing 8 kilowatts, but it's down there on the floor. Let me make sure climate control is off in here, because it auto shut itself off when it went to like shutdown mode.
Oh, that's good at least.
Yeah. This is pretty interesting. You can see we have 10 kilowatts coming in, but only going into the battery, this is a nice new feature Tesla have, is 1 kilowatt. And so a lot of these cars, a lot of Tesla vehicles, when they're super low, just trickle in the bottom bit of the battery. So what's coming into the port is being used by the heating and cooling systems. I can hear the heat pump ripping right now. It's probably charging the 12-volt battery pack, but what's actually going into the battery is almost nothing at all. So that is really interesting. We're definitely going to see how long it takes until it ramps up and accepts full power. This is a common Tesla thing, and you can see we have basically 13 kilowatts of load on this car through HVAC or other electrical loads. But what's going into the battery is the maximum it can take of 1 kilowatt down here this low. So if you ever run your Model S or X Palladium or a lot of other Model 3s with the Panasonic cells we've seen with 3 and Ys, they do this like 1 kilowatt thing at the bottom. So that's pretty normal, so don't freak out. We've seen this take upwards of 15 to 30 minutes on some of our range tests.
Jesus.
But that's always on AC charging. We've never DC charged one of these.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what happens. But I don't know why the thermal loads are going so crazy. 14 kilowatts coming in from the charger.
Just like shut off heating or cooling to the battery while you were driving.
Yeah, maybe it's just like we're going to go into the heat the battery as much as we can to get capacity out of it.
Yeah, I guess.
I wish we had sexy buttons in this car.
Yeah, that'd be good to have.
So we could see what battery inlet temp was. That's really interesting behavior and a super cool solution. So if you ever plug in dead and it does this, don't worry. That is normal. It has been 10 minutes since we've plugged in the Model X, and it's pumped in 2 kilowatt hours, but that's mostly down to that just straight like 14 kilowatts of heat and thermal load that's been blowing on this thing. The heat pump died down a little bit, and so now 5 kilowatts going into it, but still just 1 into the battery. I'm really curious to see what the battery pack voltage is on the Model X, so let's pull this up. And we'll look here, and it says voltage is 309. So basically 300 volts on the floor was when we plugged it in. And you can see this was our charging power here. Current was like 40, let's see, demand, voltage, current. Yeah, like 40 amps. And then it died when the heat pump stopped requesting, it came down. So pretty cool that we have all this data in our Charge Rig's mobile charger. But this is something we've seen from Teslas for a while, where they just take a a few kilowatts from the charger and only about 1 kilowatt into the battery. I just have never run one of these Palladium Model S or X's dead, and so it's really interesting to see the behavior with so much buffer below zero, which I think is an unacceptable amount. But it really did try to give everything there. So now that I know this, I'm going to target like negative 5% arrivals wherever I go, because wow, there's so much juice below zero. Now, is it repeatable? Will it always do that? I don't know. These run to zeros are always in this car, this day, these conditions, but I always try to start with a calibrated car, and this certainly was. So that's pretty wild. And just now, about 12 minutes in, it's going up to full power off the charger. So it needed like, basically 11, 12 minutes on the floor, and then boom, shot right up.
That's crazy. That 2 kilowatt hours to get this thing up and running.
Yeah, but keep in mind, that's mostly to the heat pump. There's probably less than 500 watt hours to the battery.
Jesus.
That is hilarious. So now it's ripping. The charger's giving everything it can. You can see the battery wants 100 kilowatts here, and the charger can only give it 68 kilowatts because we're 200 amp limited. This is such a nice screen time.
We're at 1% now.
Oh, well, hold on one second. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because it says plus 0 kilowatt hours, plus 1 kilowatt hour. It doesn't count below zero, if I remember correctly. How many?
3.2.
So we've dispensed 3.2 kilowatt hours. Again, most of it to the heat pump. And now it's at 1%?
That doesn't make any sense.
Don't trust the BMS. That really makes less than no sense. Holy smokes. So I wonder if we unplug it now, Timon, if it will
Die at zero?
go back to zero. I feel like it's worth seeing what happens. Let me hit stop charging. Stop charging. There's no way, because it went 7 kilowatt hours after it hit 0%. And now it's showing, showing 1%. So maybe you shouldn't rely on going 7 kilowatt hours past zero every time. But what's funny is, I put home, which is, our building right over here. It says we'll get there at -3, but that shows 1, and it's a few hundred feet that way. That is not making much sense. So I drove about a half a mile and it went back down to 0%. I'm just going to plug it into AC charging, but still, that's weird, isn't it?